You're listening to The Deep Dive, where AI voices break down big ideas. Every week, Nova and Echo guide you through the tools, trends, and thinking behind the AI revolution. No hype, no fluff, just smart conversations sparked by AI.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. This is where we take all of that information you've shared with us, really sift through it, and pull out the key insights tailor-made for you. Today, we're diving into a topic that's just moving incredibly fast, AI and creativity.
Yeah, it really is.
We got a whole stack of research papers, articles here. They're looking at AI's ability to be creative, which is, frankly, kind of surprising sometimes. How it works for brainstorming, and maybe most importantly, how we humans can actually work with these tools effectively.
That's right. And the sources we have cover, quite a bit of ground. Everything from, psychological studies on idea generation, how people interact with AI, all the way to hard data on productivity boosts in business, and even practical guides on, how to talk to these advanced AI models properly.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack what all this tells us about AI, not just as a tool, but maybe as a creative partner.
Yeah,
where does it really shine in the creative process? Where are we, as humans, still essential? And ultimately, how can you use AI to, supercharge your own creative work, especially when you're trying to come up with new ideas?
Okay, so let's get into it. The first thing that really jumps out from all these sources is just the sheer power of AI when it comes to generating raw ideas.
Just the volume.
The volume, exactly. It can produce way more ideas than humans can in the same amount of time. There was one study using GPT-4 specifically. It found the ideas the AI came up with were actually rated significantly higher in originality compared to human-generated ones. We're talking 3.2 versus 2.6 on a 5-point scale.
Wow, okay. That's not a tiny difference. That's something you'd actually notice in terms of originality.
Definitely.
And some of the examples in the sources are pretty surprising too, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. That same study, the GPT-4 one, it found the AI scored better than 91% of humans on a standard creativity test, the alternative uses test.
Oh, right. The one where you have to think of unusual uses for a common object, a brick or something.
Exactly that one. I mean, think about it. An AI doing better than almost everyone on a test that's designed to measure divergent thinking, a core part of creativity.
Oh, that's pretty wild.
It is. And it gets maybe even more intriguing when you look at subjective creative stuff.
Okay.
So in one area, AI generated haikus. They were rated higher in beauty than poems by, famous human poets.
Seriously?
Haikus. Now, okay, there's a caveat. Humans picked the best AI poems from a bigger batch first, so there was human curation involved.
Wow.
But still, the AI produced poems that people perceived as more beautiful. On a 7-point scale, it was 4.56 for the AI ones versus 4.15 for the human ones. It shows AI can somehow tap into what we find, aesthetically pleasing.
It also seems like AI can be a bit of an equalizer, maybe. I saw one study mention people co-creating paintings using AI image tools.
Right, the art study.
Yeah. And it kind of leveled the playing field so much that work by non-artists using AI became pretty comparable to stuff by experienced artists, sometimes even preferred.
Yeah, they even had this sweetness score, which is basically just how much people liked the painting's look.
Right.
And on that score, yeah, sometimes the non-artists using AI actually came out ahead.
Fascinating.
And you see this reflected in the business world, too, pretty clearly. We looked at data from sales agents using AI assistants. When they got hit with, totally new questions, they hadn't been trained for questions needing some creative problem solving on the fly.
Yeah.
They were 133% more successful at answering them with AI help.
Wow, 133%.
Huge difference. And it hit the bottom line, too. They closed 61% more sales.
Okay, that's significant.
Absolutely. And another interesting point, the AI help really narrowed the skill gap between the best and, let's say, the less experienced performers on the team. It basically made everyone better.
So if we pull all that together, what's the takeaway for you, the listener? I mean, these sources seem really clear. AI isn't just for automating boring tasks anymore.
No, definitely not.
It actually has a real, sometimes kind of startling creative capacity. It can generate ideas, and that can directly boost your productivity, improve outcomes, whether you're doing, creative work or just trying to solve business problems.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. While the AI can generate this massive volume of stuff, the core message from all this material seems to be that its real power comes out when you pair it with human judgment, human discernment.
So co-creation.
Co-creation, exactly. The human working with the AI, that combo is consistently found to be better than just letting the AI run loose on its own.
Okay, why though?
Yeah.
If the AI is so good at generating ideas, why isn't that enough? Why do we need the human in the loop?
Well, because humans bring AI just doesn't have context.
Yeah.
For one, refinement, the strategic thinking, the so what factor.
Right.
AI generates possibilities based on data patterns, sure, but it doesn't understand real world nuance or your specific goals or, the practical hurdles an idea might face, not like a human does.
So we provide the direction, the filter, the final polish maybe.
Exactly. We make the raw idea actually usable, relevant.
It sounds less like just using a tool and more like adding a really unique kind of teammate to your process.
That's a great way to put it. There was one study mentioned, a participatory design one, where people actually worked with AI tools and they didn't see the AI as like a replacement for them. They saw it as a helpful partner. A teammate, like you said,
Right.
Something that helped them get over creative blocks or just, get started.
That makes sense. Getting over that blank page feeling.
Totally. And you can actually guide the AI very deliberately to help with structured creative thinking. The sources detail specific techniques for using AI in the brainstorming process itself.
Okay, let's dive into some of those methods. One that really caught my eye was something called trisociation.
Trisociation. Yeah, it's a pretty clever method. It basically plays to AI's strength in finding connections between things that seem totally unrelated. The idea is you take three disparate concepts, just really different things, and you mash them together to spark a genuinely novel idea. It's like finding the weird intersection point between three random dots.
Could you give that example from the sources again? It was kind of interesting.
Sure. They used health, origami, and digital.
Right. Okay. Random mix.
Totally random. But when you feed that combo to an AI using trisociation, it might spit out something like a digital platform that uses interactive origami tutorials to boost mental wellness or improve focus.
Wow. Okay, yeah, I definitely wouldn't have jumped to that connection quickly on my own.
Right. Me neither. And you can actually tweak the approach. If you want maximum novelty, maybe something really out there, you use three completely unrelated concepts. Might be less feasible, but super original.
Okay.
Or you could take one concept that is related to your problem and then add two unrelated ones, or maybe two related, one unrelated. That helps you balance, the need for novelty with a bit more practicality.
I can see how that would work for stuff like, say, product naming. You take the product category, shoes maybe, plus two random words, bridge and compass.
Exactly. Or shoes, safety, telescope. Or for generating ad concepts, pizza, shark, music. It just forces your brain down different paths.
Yeah, it breaks your usual patterns.
Totally. And the sources mention other established creative frameworks you can prompt AI with, too, like reverse brainstorming.
Where you try to figure out how to cause the problem instead of solve it.
Yeah, to uncover hidden assumptions or solutions. Or the six thinking hats method.
Oh, yeah, the different perspectives.
Yeah.
The facts hat, emotions, critique, optimism.
Creativity, next steps, right.
Yeah.
And there's also SCAMPER, that acronym. Substitute, combine, adapt, modify.
Put to another use, eliminate, reverse. It's like a checklist for tweaking ideas.
Exactly. AI can apply these systematic approaches, generating ideas from all these different angles that, maybe you wouldn't think to explore yourself.
Okay, so we've established AI can generate a ton of ideas. It can use these structured frameworks. But getting the really good stuff, the useful creative output, it's not automatic, is it?
No, definitely not.
The sources really hammer home this idea of prompt engineering.
Oh, absolutely. Prompt engineering is, it's basically the skill of writing the input you give the AI, crafting that text to really guide the response you want. And the sources are super clear on this. The quality, the specificity of your prompt, that directly impacts how relevant, how accurate, and even how creative the AI's output is.
So it's like learning how to ask the right questions, basically.
Pretty much learning to communicate your creative goal effectively to the machine.
What are some of the practical tips the sources give for, writing better prompts?
Well, they highlight a few key things. First, be really clear about the purpose. What do you actually want the AI to do?
Okay.
Then, specify the audience. Who is this output for? If you have examples, use them. Do it like this, or avoid sounding like that.
Right. Examples help a lot.
Definitely. Be clear and concise. Avoid jargon or ambiguity if you can. And crucially, provide context. Give it the background info it needs to understand the situation.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's the difference between typing like write about renewable energy versus
saying something like, draft a 500-word introductory article aimed at high school students. Explain the main benefits of solar and wind power, include a couple of recent stats, and suggest 2 simple actions they could take at home.
Okay, yeah. That second one gives it so much more to work with. Purpose, audience, length, specific topics, the kind of detail, even a required element.
Exactly. You're channeling its creative energy much more effectively. And the sources also mention briefly that for more advanced stuff, you can even hook the AI up to specific external data or like specialized knowledge bases you have.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, to make its answers even richer and more up to date.
Okay, let's dig into some of the trickier bits now, some of the nuances and maybe challenges these studies brought up. AI generates a huge volume of ideas, right? But one study found that human groups, they actually came up with the highest diversity of ideas.
Diversity. Not necessarily more ideas total, but a wider range of different types of ideas.
That's an important distinction, isn't it?
It is. However, the sources also show that prompt engineering can make a huge difference here, too. It can dramatically improve the diversity of AI-generated ideas.
How so?
Well, techniques like chain of thought prompting, where you literally tell the AI, think step by step before giving the final answer.
Make it show its work.
Basically, yeah. That approach got the AI's idea diversity closest to matching the human groups in one study. It seems like forcing it to spell out its reasoning makes it explore more paths before landing on an idea.
Interesting. And it wasn't just chain of thought, was it? Didn't they mention other prompts?
Right. Using persona prompts worked well, too, like telling the AI to think like Steve Jobs or some other specific creative archetype. And just generally, it seemed like longer, more detailed, more elaborate prompts tended to produce more diverse outputs from the AI.
But there's also a flip side, right? AI can sometimes just conform.
Right.
Or generate ideas that are all kind of similar.
Yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for. If you're not careful with the prompting, AI models can exhibit biases like, groupthink or conformity. They might just give you variations on the same theme, which can obviously hinder real ideation.
Okay, which kind of connects to this really fascinating experiment I saw mentioned. Exploring the idea of using a dissenting AI.
Oh, yeah, the dissenting AI study. That was interesting.
It drew on research showing that in human groups, having someone who disagrees or pushes back can actually spark more creative thinking. Right?
Exactly. So this study set up an experiment. People were writing story endings, and then they got feedback from an AI partner. But some people got feedback from a conforming AI one that mostly just agreed or gave positive reinforcement. Others got feedback from a dissenting AI, specifically prompted to critique them, challenge their ideas, push back a bit.
Ooh, okay. How did that turn out?
Well, the results were a bit mixed. Overall, the creativity scores weren't statistically significantly different across the board, but the trend did suggest that maybe for some people, interacting with that dissenting AI might lead to more creative outcomes and push them a bit more.
But what about the human reaction? I bet that wasn't straightforward.
Oh, not at all. People interacting with the dissenting AI had really varied feelings. Some found it, jarring. They described the AI as mean or condescending.
Ouch. Yeah, I could see that.
And that, understandably, led to frustration for some. But for others, that same critical feedback actually sparked this feeling of rebelliousness, or they saw the critique as a real opportunity to make their work better.
So a real split in reactions.
Definitely. And that has huge implications for, practical usability. Would people actually choose to use an AI that argues with them?
Good question.
The study looked at factors affecting adoption. And they found, maybe unsurprisingly, that the conforming AI was seen as much easier to use, less mental effort, less anxiety associated with it.
Right. Comfort versus challenge.
Exactly. So even if the dissenting AI might push creativity sometimes, the negative reactions could mean people just wouldn't want to use it regularly.
Makes sense. Adoption is key.
Oh.
Did they mention anything else on usability?
They had a sort of exploratory finding suggesting maybe gender could play a role in how receptive people were to the dissenting AI. But they were very clear. The sample size was way too small to draw any real conclusions there. Just something they noticed.
Okay, noted. And one last point from the edge cases. Evaluation. It's hard to judge this stuff.
Yeah, the experts who were grading the creative work, especially when AI was involved, they found it really tricky to completely separate the inherent creativity of an idea from the technical quality or the polish of the execution, particularly if the AI helped with that execution part. The lines get blurry.
Interesting challenge. Okay, so let's try and pull all these different threads together now. What's the big picture?
Well, I think it's clear AI is a seriously powerful generator. Ideas, creative outputs, it can produce a lot, and sometimes the originality is genuinely surprising.
Yeah, the volume and sometimes the novelty are undeniable.
But, and this seems crucial from the sources, the most effective way to use it isn't AI alone, it's co-creation. It's leveraging those AI strengths, but adding that vital layer of human judgment, context, refinement, giving it purpose.
And the key to making that partnership work is prompt engineering, right? That's the skill we need to develop.
Absolutely. Effective prompting is how you direct the AI's energy, how you improve things like idea diversity, how you get outputs that actually fit your goals.
It's the steering wheel.
Good analogy, yeah. But as we saw, it's not always simple. There are complexities. We need to be aware of AI's potential biases, like conformity. We need to understand that how the AI interacts with us, its perceived attitude, like being dissenting or conforming, really matters for usability.
Yeah, the human reaction is a big part of the equation.
Definitely. And we need to remember the challenge of evaluating the output. So, bottom line, AI is an amazing tool, maybe even a teammate, that enhances processes like brainstorming, product naming, whatever. But human skill in directing it, evaluating it, bringing that real-world understanding is still absolutely critical.
It really does sound like AI is making the quantity of ideas almost free. You can get tons of them instantly.
Pretty much, yeah. Ideation overload, potentially.
But the quality, the diversity, the actual usefulness, and ultimately the impact of those ideas, that really seems to depend entirely on how smart we are about collaborating with the AI, how good we get at, well, talking to it.
Absolutely. Think of it like adding this fascinating new member to your creative team. It brings speed, incredible volume, sometimes these really unexpected connections, but it doesn't replace the human ability to guide, to evaluate, to refine, and crucially, to understand why an idea matters in the real world.
Which I guess leads us to that final provocative thought for you, the listener. As AI keeps getting better and better at just generating novel ideas, does the real measure of human creativity start to shift?
Interesting question.
Does it become less about us coming up with the initial spark and more about becoming brilliant curators, experts at selecting, refining, and actually implementing the best ideas that come out of this human-AI partnership?
Yeah. What does that mean for how you tackle your next creative challenge, knowing you've got this incredibly powerful, if sometimes quirky, new teammate potentially waiting to help?
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for exploring with us. If you learned something new or sparked an idea, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Got a topic you want Nova and Echo to break down next? Drop it in the comments. Until next time, keep prompting, keep building, and keep doing it with AI.